A packed room buzzing with energy, cameras clicking every second. The faint hum of reporters whispering to one another. And at the center of it all, former President Donald Trump. The air is charged. The kind of atmosphere where you know something memorable is about to happen. Journalists are poised with their notepads and microphones, waiting for the perfect moment to fire off questions. Everyone in the room knows Trump has a way of turning even the most ordinary press event into headline material than it happens. One reporter, perhaps trying to lighten the mood or maybe even score a viral moment of their own, decides to crack a joke at Trump's expense. The delivery is quick, sharp, and clearly designed to get a laugh. For a split second, there's a pause, that tiny window of expectation where everyone waits to see if the crowd will laugh along. But instead of laughter, the room goes silent, painfully silent. The joke doesn't land. No chuckles, no smirks, not even the polite kind of laugh people give when they want to move on. Instead, the silence lingers, stretching just long enough to make everyone feel uncomfortable. Trump, known for his larger-than-life personality, raises his eyebrows and tilts his head, almost as if to say, "Really? That's the best you've got?" His unimpressed expression only deepens the awkwardness. The reporter, who moments earlier seemed confident, now looks like they want the floor to open up and swallow them whole. What was meant to be a clever, light-hearted jab has turned into a public backfire. The kind that instantly makes the room uneasy. But here's where the story takes a twist. While all eyes were on Trump and the fumbling reporter, the real moment of the night came from someone else, Melania Trump, sitting gracefully beside her husband. Melania's face revealed what words could not. A subtle shift in her expression, a quick glance, and then that smirk. It wasn't loud or exaggerated, but it spoke volumes. In an instant, the cameras caught it. That tiny, unguarded reaction was more powerful than anything said on stage. And while the reporter's joke faded into awkward silence, Melania's look became the spark that would soon ignite the internet. As the camera slowly zoomed in, the spotlight shifted away from Trump and the reporter, landing squarely on Melania Trump, and in that split second, she didn't bother to mask her emotions. Her face told the entire story, without a single word spoken. You could see it unfold almost like a silent movie. First a glance at the reporter, then a quick look toward her husband, and finally, that subtle, unmistakable smirk. It wasn't over the top. It wasn't exaggerated. But that tiny smirk carried more weight than the reporter's entire attempt at humor. For millions watching later, it was as if Melania's expression was silently saying, "Nice try, but not today." Others felt she looked almost amused, as though she had seen this exact kind of awkward moment play out many times before, and was simply letting the world in on her private reaction. And that's what made it so powerful. In a political world where nearly everything is scripted, polished, and rehearsed, Melania's unguarded reaction felt real. It was authentic, it was raw, and people online couldn't get enough of it. Within hours, social media went into overdrive. Twitter lit up with short clips of her smirk, looped endlessly with captions like, "Melania's face says it all," and "She's the real MVP of this press event." TikTok creators jumped on the trend, editing the clip with dramatic music, slow motion effects, and even comedic voiceovers that imagined what Melania might have been thinking in that moment. Instagram meme pages plastered her reaction over every kind of joke, turning her face into the universal symbol of side-eye sarcasm. The original joke? Completely forgotten. The reporter? Barely mentioned. What people couldn't stop discussing was Melania's sharp, very human response. For many viewers, this was a rare glimpse into her unfiltered personality, a side of her that the public rarely gets to see, usually. Melania is known for her calm, reserved demeanor. She plays her role with grace, often keeping her emotions carefully controlled. But this time, her expression slipped through the cracks. It was subtle, it was genuine, and it reminded people that behind the polished First Lady image is a woman who reacts just like the rest of us, and that tiny smirk, it became the meme of the week, a reaction for every awkward moment life could throw your way. The internet has always wasted absolutely no time turning the moment into pure viral gold. Within minutes of the press event ending, Twitter timelines were already filling up with screenshots and clips of Melania's smirk. Captions rolled in fast and furious, lines like "Melania's face says what we're all thinking, and forget the reporter." Melania just ended the show, dominated the feed. It wasn't just a passing reaction. It had instantly become a cultural talking point. On TikTok, creators went illin. The platform was flooded with edits that stitched the clip into skits, comedy routines, and reaction videos. Some creators added dramatic background music, making Melania's smirk feel like the climax of a movie scene. Others froze the frame right on her expression, zoomed in, and exaggerated it into full-blown comedy sketches. A few even gave her imagined inner monologues, sarcastic voiceovers suggesting what she really wanted to say at that moment. Instagram and Facebook weren't far behind. Meme pages plastered Melania's reaction onto all kinds of everyday scenarios, turning her smirk into the ultimate universal response. Whether it was a joke about skipping Monday meetings or avoiding awkward conversations with relatives, Melania's face became the go-to punchline. But as with all viral moments, people couldn't agree on exactly what her reaction meant. Some were convinced it was a subtle show of loyalty to Trump, a quiet but pointed way of saying she wasn't impressed with the reporter's attempt to take him down. Others, however, saw it differently. They argued it looked like Melania was simply enjoying the awkwardness of the moment, almost as if she had seen this exact scene play out countless times before and couldn't help but smirk. Regardless of the interpretation, the clip's reach was undeniable. By the next morning, the hashtags were everywhere. Hashtag Melanian reaction, hashtag Trump joke fail, and hashtag reporter backfire were all trending simultaneously across platforms. The story wasn't just living online anymore. It had spilled over into mainstream coverage. Major news outlets ran segments replaying the clip. Late-night talk show hosts chimed in with their comedic takes. And suddenly, what had begun as a forgettable, offhand joke from one reporter had snowballed into a full-blown internet sensation. The original punchline may have fallen flat, but Melania's smirk, that became the story that nobody could stop talking about. So why did this clip resonate so strongly with people? Why did a single smirk become bigger news than the actual press event? The answer lies in a mix of timing, relatability, and the power of social media. First, it highlighted the unpredictable nature of live events. In politics, reporters often try to use humor as a tool, maybe to ease tension, to grab attention, or even to throw a politician off guard. Sometimes those jokes land perfectly, and everyone laughs. But when they don't, the fallout can be brutal. A joke that falls flat not only embarrasses the person telling it, but in today's world, it can also spark massive online conversations. That's exactly what happened here. What was meant to be a light-hearted moment instead turned into a global talking point. Secondly, and perhaps most importantly, Melania's reaction reminded everyone of the unspoken power of body language. In politics, every word is carefully scripted and analyzed, but gestures and expressions often reveal far more than speeches ever could. A raised eyebrow, a quick glance, or in this case, a subtle smirk, can communicate volumes. And people love that because it feels real. Melania didn't make a speech. She didn't issue a statement. Yet with one tiny expression, she became the headline. This moment resonated because it was authentic. It wasn't polished or staged, and it wasn't filtered through advisors or teleprompters. It was human, and that's exactly what audiences crave in a world where so much feels over-rehearsed. Watching her react the way anyone else might in an awkward situation made her seem relatable, even to people who don't usually follow politics closely. Finally, the clip demonstrated just how quickly small moments can explode into cultural phenomena. Without social media, Melania's smirk might have gone unnoticed, forgotten in the blur of a typical press event. Instead, it was captured, clipped, shared, and remixed until it completely overshadowed the original story. That's the power of today's digital world. The audience, not the speakers, decides what's newsworthy, and in this case, the audience made it clear. The real star of the moment wasn't the reporter's joke or Trump's reaction. It was Melania's subtle but unforgettable smirk that turned an ordinary day into viral history. At the heart of this story lies a lesson that goes far beyond one reporter, one joke, or even one press conference. Humor in politics has always been a double-edged sword. On the one hand, it can humanize politicians, making them seem approachable, relatable, and even charming. A well-timed laugh can bridge the gap between leaders and the public. But on the other hand, when humor fails, especially in today's hyper-connected digital age, it doesn't just flop quietly. It explodes. It highlights tensions, exposes vulnerabilities, and often overshadows the very issue or event it was meant to lighten up. That's exactly what happened here. The reporter's attempt at a quick
Laugh ended up becoming a cautionary tale. In a world where every word, gesture, and expression is recorded, shared, and dissected in real time, public figures must tread carefully. One misplaced joke can turn into a viral storm, and one audience reaction, like Melania's, can become the defining moment of the entire event. For Melania, this was an unexpected addition to her public persona. For years, she has been known for her elegance, her reserved demeanor, and her carefully curated appearances. Rarely do we get unfiltered glimpses into her personality, but in that split second, when the smirk crossed her face, she wasn't the former First Lady delivering a prepared statement. She was simply human, and the internet loved it. Suddenly, Melania wasn't just a political figure. She became the internet's reaction queen, the star of countless memes, jokes, and viral videos. And that's the beauty of these unscripted moments. They remind us that sometimes the most powerful parts of political life aren't the speeches or the headlines. They're the tiny human reactions that slip through when no one expects them. The story of the joke that backfired isn't really about a reporter or even about Trump. It's about the power of moments. Moments that feel authentic, relatable, and real enough to capture the public's imagination. So the next time a reporter thinks about cracking a joke in front of millions, they may want to pause and think twice. Because as this viral moment proved, the real story doesn't always lie in the punchline. Sometimes it's in the glance, the smirk, or the reaction that follows. The kind of moment that can turn an ordinary press event into viral internet history.